Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now.
Yes, we are able to see it.
Okay, all right. So hi, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to talk on today's event. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in the interest of time. So, before I started off, I figured I'd go ahead and answer the question that probably everyone's wondering is, who's this guy anyway? So in a nutshell, my name is Ramiro. I am the mad scientist behind O365. I started my Microsoft Solutions journey with SharePoint, initially as a power user and then a consultant, and then ended up being an administrator. I've also been working with Power Apps and Power Automate for over 2 years now. I've created several business applications that are still being used daily. I have a big curiosity about just everything. So, if you think about it, I've probably gone and researched it for no obvious reason, just out of curiosity. But the last line here is really what pushes me the most, and that's my tendency to have really kind of unorthodox ideas, and the Power Apps and Power Automate is the perfect place for me to play around with that. So, case in point, here's just a small sliver of the more recent ideas that I've worked on that are kind of out there. And so before going down that rabbit trail, though, I just wanted to show you guys this last application, and that's kind of the inspiration behind today's discussion, or more specifically, a small piece of this application that kind of stuck out to me when I first built it over a year ago. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I have to tell everybody that while I absolutely love this application that you're seeing on the screen, it wasn't ultimately used for its original intended purpose. But as I worked on it, I felt that it had so much potential that I decided to work on it just on my own as a kind of labor of love, to throw everything that I've learned over the years since when I first created it, especially with the user interface. So to give you guys some background on the original intent of why it was created, I decided to just create a case study around it. So it may or may not be based on true events. I'll leave it to you guys to guess which parts are completely made up. But I'll give you a hint, it's the penguins that are made up. All right, so without further ado, I'd like to quickly present to you an unfinished and completely contrived case study at the totally fictional Antarctic Adventures, Inc. So I'm not really going to go over everything in this presentation, but I couldn't help but, kind of come up with the story, which I'm just going to go quickly through until we get to the real meat of the presentation. So again, it's a crazy idea, but it helps give a background. So running through this slide, we'll meet the main character in our case study, in this case, a penguin by the name of Nate Flightless. Now, Nate's in charge of a lot of things, but for the purposes of this session, we'll just focus on him needing to get sales forecasts from his team and wanting to build a Power App to do it. Nate's sales team is great at making sales, but they are horrible at giving him accurate forecasts on time. And it often leads to Nate getting in hot water with operations, amongst other departments. And the current method of doing things is using an Excel spreadsheet that an intern is just not going to cut it anymore. Unfortunately, in the scenario that we're all likely familiar with, Nate is expecting a lot of pushback in trying to get the penguins out of their comfort zone, namely Excel. That said, good old Nate is anything but a quitter. So he's going to sit down with his fellow penguins to identify some patterns of behavior and how they do their work every day. Which ultimately is going to lead him to a revelation. So after spending some time watching the penguins work with the spreadsheet, he starts to notice some patterns. For example, the sales team, they often cut or copy and then paste the existing rows to make their data entry quicker. And they regularly drag the month and year value across multiple rows when building their forecast. On top of that, Nate also notices that when reviewing the submitted forecast, there are typos everywhere. There's columns that got messed up, calculated columns that got thrown off, and there's still old copies of the spreadsheet that are still in circulation. So it's at this point that the gears in Nate's head start turning and he begins to see beyond the spreadsheet. Nate's heard of something called Power Apps, and he knows that he can go ahead and build his own application just the way that he wants. So no longer being confined by the restrictions imposed by Excel's design, and liberated to create the application of his dreams in Power Apps, he realizes that with just a little bit of work, he can take a table like this with redundant or extra columns like these. He can reimagine it into an interface like this. He can then extend it to include data like this, and he can put it all on one single screen, which can then ultimately be rejoined into a data set like this for reporting and visualization inside of something like Power BI. All right, so with all of that out of the way, I just want to go ahead and jump right into how to actually build the thing that we just described. So to do that, we're going to start with, and now here I say a blank canvas app, but that would take us a very long time to build. So what I'm going to do is show you. This is the Excel spreadsheet that we're starting with. It's very similar to what you just saw in the presentation, right? So we have our salesperson and month, year, sales price, product, sales quantity, and revenue. And as I mentioned, as Nate was looking at this, he was checking to see, people would go here and they would copy and paste. So, the Excel is very easy to work with, but it is sometimes limited when you're trying to build an application off it. Now, most people would try to recreate exactly this inside of Power Apps. And so I guess the big learning and takeaway was looking to see, even though this is what you have your data look like, it's not necessarily how you have to show your data to your users to input. So hiding underneath this Excel spreadsheet right now is a Canvas app that I had pre-prepared for us that shows you in a way kind of how all of what I just showed you comes together. So I did change the background colors on each one of the different pieces of it so you can kind of see where things come together and how they're pieced together. So obviously the blue section, that's just the top level of this application. That's just the background. Now in here you see an orange box rectangle. This is actually a gallery in Power Apps, which is used to show you, more than one item. If you keep adding more, it just keeps growing. And then the green section, this is what we would call a nested gallery. So it's a gallery inside of a gallery. And this is how it all kind of comes together. So before we go ahead and look at that, let me go ahead and clear this one. I already have it just to show you. So I'm going to clear this. And now you can see, it cleared out the data that we had created in there. So how we actually put this thing together. So the first thing that I want to show you, so we're just going to go ahead and add a save button. So in Power Apps, along the top or on the left-hand side, you have insert, and then you have this plus icon. And so what I did was I went ahead and did insert, and I added a button. So I'll throw one in there so you can see what it looks like when you add it. And so again, the Power Apps interface allows you to kind of drag and drop items all over the place. You can put it where you want it to go, and you can make it do whatever it is that you want it to do. So let me go ahead and delete this now, though. And so, I added a save button there, and then I added this field, which is actually two different fields. One of them is just a simple label, which you can see over here. This is a text label. And then the next one is the text input field. So I added two of those, and then I grouped them together. So then that became my salesperson field. And so in Power Apps, you also have the ability to rename any one of these controls, as they're called, to whatever it is that you want. So in this case, salesperson got renamed into field salesperson, FLD salesperson. And that helps you later on as you build your applications that you can look for specific fields. So I can go ahead and enter, for example, if I add another text label, I can set my text value up here, and I could say field salesperson dot text. And so what that does is it creates a connection between my label and this text box. So now if I go ahead and press play to preview this, now this is empty, but if I start typing in a word, right? So it creates a connection to that label. So this label is getting its value based off of the text box. So that's just a quick sidetrack to show you how that works. Okay, so now going further into this. So in here we have, this is the top level collection or gallery that I mentioned to you guys. Its data source is a local collection. So if you think of a collection inside of Power Apps, it's like a table that stores data. And you can actually see what is in that data if you go to File and Collection. So right now there's nothing in there. And so the one that we're modifying there is collection month. So it has 2 columns, month and year, and you can actually decide what columns it has and the type of columns that they are as you build your application. And I'll show you just now. So notice with month and year, there's no rows in there. So if I go back to the application and I click now on this Add Month button, I have on select, so you can choose. It's either you can go to advanced and on select here. You can also pick it from the drop down here. So once you pick a control, there's different items that you can change. So in this case, our on select one, we're doing an action called collect. And what collect is just it adds items into a collection, which is kind of the table that I mentioned to you guys. So here we're adding it to that COL month or collection month, and we're adding basically an empty, what's known as a record. So anything inside of these 2 curly brackets here is known as a record. And so my record is going to have 2 different properties. One is month, and then the other one is year. And then just to make it easy on myself, I'm making these just empty quotes, which means they're just a string, right? It's just text. You can change that to be numbers. You can make that into a date. There's all sorts of different things that you can do. But just to keep it a little bit simple, we're doing strings here. And so when I click on this button, we're doing exactly that. So this is basically saying when I select this button, I want you to add a row to the collection called month. And inside of that row, I want you to just go ahead and put an empty month and an empty year. So if I hit that, we'll see now we have a row that got added here. And if I go back to my collection and go collection months, you'll see that I have this empty right in here. So it added an empty row, which is exactly what we wanted it to do. And so now we're going to go ahead and actually go into this row now, because this gallery again is showing us all of the items that come from that collection, right? So we have collection months, and that's what we're using as its data source. And so inside of this gallery, I added another text box. So when you click inside of a gallery here, you again can use the insert panel to add other fields. So I can add another text input, and you can move it around inside of the gallery and place it where you want it to be. So as you start adding more things, so if I go add month, you'll see it just keeps going and doing that for you, right? So it just repeats the first one that you create. And now for every row that gets added to your collection, that gets shown over and over again. So that same layout. So let me go ahead and delete this though. Okay, so now what I already had set up here, so you can see that I have a month text box, a year text box, and then I have an add product button. I won't click on the add product button yet. And here I want to show you guys there's what's known as a pattern when you design this. So when I first got started building Power Apps, what I would do when I would make changes inside of my collection or inside of my gallery is every time I go to here, there's a property called onChange. And so what I would do is I would say on change, I want you to update the collection, and I want you to, and I would put everything inside of here. It wasn't until later on that somebody, I can't remember who it was, but it was great when they told me, when somebody mentioned to me that what you can do instead of doing that for every one of these, instead what you can do is add a button to that row. And then inside of that button, that's where you will actually do your updates. And so if you notice here, I have a button that says patch month year. and that's what it's called. And so my on changes for both of these, all I'm doing is selecting the button patch month year. So this text box, so when something changes in here, all it's doing is clicking on this button, automatically. Same thing here. When I change something here, all it does is select that button. So if we click on the button itself, there's an on select property, and this is where we're doing some actions to update this row that we just made a change on. So you can ignore this piece right now and just kind of focus on this patch statement. So again, in Power Apps, there's this idea of a patch, which is basically, it's saying, I want you to update this row inside of this collection or table. In this case, you can use this item. So there's, what you want to update. So the collection, the record that you want to update, which is this item, and then what you want to update it with. So if you guys remember a second ago when I showed you the add month, we were creating a blank record, but this time we're following the same pattern. So we're doing a month and a year, but this time what we're adding, instead of just an empty string or two quotes, we're doing the text from the month and then also the text from the year. And so what that does now is I click in here. So if I go in here and I say, January, and then in here, I'll say 2020. And so without doing anything, now that I've made a change, as you guys remember, now that I changed something, it automatically selected this button over here, which updated our collection. So if I go back over to our collection, you'll see the first row, sure enough, it got updated with January 2020. And I can do that really quickly to the rest of them, just so that we have, good data in there. So July 2020, and we'll do 2020. And again, just by changing the text, Power Apps already knows, okay, this changed, so what do I do now? And in our case, we're telling it just select that button. Now, this button, you don't have to have it shown. You can actually hide it as long as it's on the same screen, or something that I usually like to do is you're able to change its property. So what I'll do is I'll change the width. So I'll probably just make it something like 2. And you can use this as an accent to your Power App. And so then, it starts adding a little bit of color to your Power App itself, and it's still something visible. So, there's different things you can do with it. You could also just hide it completely. For now, I'll just leave it there so everybody knows it's still there. Okay. So, and again, I updated those other 2 rows. So if we go to our collection, sure enough, January 2020, July, and November. Okay. So now when I click on this add product button, kind of similar to what we talked about earlier, we're doing another collection, but this time we're feeding this different collection, which is product. And so what we are giving it, instead of just being a blank row, we're giving it some specific things. One thing we're doing is we're giving it the salesperson. And if you notice, we're getting that value from the text box that's up at the very top. So I'm saying I want you to create a new row. In that row, I want to have a column called salesperson. And what I want you to put in there is the text box from salesperson up here. I'm also going to say I want you to create a column for a month. And what I want you to put in there is this item. So this row, I want you to put the month from this row. And then same thing for the year. And then the last ones that we leave in there blank are product name, sales price, and sales quantity. And so what this is doing, if you think about it, it's kind of like a waterfall. So this salesperson is at the top. When I click add month, then it falls into this level here. So now I have a table here. And then when I click on add product, it then creates one more table, and you'll see it just now. So now it created one more table, and it falls straight up. All right, let me go ahead and wait for that to come back up. Okay, sorry about that, you guys. So let me go ahead and just go in here, add month, and we'll add a quick month, July 2020, and add product. Okay, sorry. So again, think of it like a waterfall. So you start from this level, it falls onto this table, and then from this table, when I click on product, it falls onto this table. So now here I have a table. I can just make up a product right now. So we're just going to say shoes, and sales price, we're just going to say $20, and I bought two. Okay, and so similar to this top item here, now there's another button here that says patch product, and it does the same thing really. So each one of these text fields, if we go to the on change thing, we're just doing a select, and we're selecting that button. In that button, we're doing the same thing as the other one. We're doing a patch or an update. This time we're updating the products collection. Again, we're just saying this item, so this row, and Power Apps is smart enough to know what row you're talking about just by saying this item. And then again, we're feeding it. Now we're updating the columns for product name, sales price, and sales quantity. And we're just saying use the text values from these rows here, or from these controls down here. So as I went ahead and added shoes 20 and 2 inside of here, it was automatically hitting that button for us. And so if I go again, file, collections, here's our collection of products. And so there you go, you start seeing shoes 20 and 2, and you see where just by that same waterfall effect that I mentioned earlier, those other columns came down. So John, July 2020, those fed into it because of our buttons from earlier that just kept going down. So you can see how you can kind of expand, your data so that they only have to enter at one time. Because now as I go in here, if I click add product again, it gives me another row, and I can change this to say jacket and say 55. So you'll see that, I have two rows here, and I've automatically had July 2020 added to both rows without having my employee have to keep retyping it every single time, right? So in Excel, how you would normally do this is you'd probably have that column for, the month and the year, and then you would drag it down, and you're creating extra data that you don't really need to keep because you can just get it from how you design your application for the user. So again, I'll add one more product here just for fun. So 10, say 15, and I've got one. Okay. So if I go back one more time to that table, you'll see, and let me delete this label. So if I go back to that collection one more time, you'll notice that now collection product has 3 rows, and it has all that data that we were feeding into it, right? So that was just done using a combination of the collect function and the patch function to update it. Okay, and so let me go ahead and jump straight back here. Okay, so now that we have our collection, excuse me, I shouldn't have left that screen. Now that we have our collection of products, we start to see that it looks very similar to the Excel spreadsheet that we had, right? So it looks just like the Excel spreadsheet that we had earlier. And so the last thing that we want to do is we want to write that information back into SharePoint. So I went into my demo SharePoint tenant and went ahead and created a SharePoint list. If you haven't already done one before, they're pretty easy to put together. You just go hit new list, and then you can add your columns however you want to here. So I can click on add columns, and you can pick the type of column that you need to add. So again, to make it easy for me today, I just did a single line of text, but that's how you can kind of build upon it. So I added the 3 columns, so salesperson, month, year, product name, sales price, and sales quantity. So they match, those match exactly, and it doesn't have to it doesn't matter what the order is, as long as the columns match in this case. So this is the exact same columns that we would need. And so obviously I need to get my data from Power App into my SharePoint list. That way you can do stuff with it later on. So how you do that is, if I go back here, I'm going to go ahead and show you now what's actually inside of this save button. So if you click on the save button and if we expand it, you can see how simple you can make this piece of it. So there are different ways to do this, and I'll show you guys in just a second, because the one that I posted online on Twitter, that one's a little bit more complex, but you can see in reality you can make it very, very simple how you insert these records inside of SharePoint. So again, Power Apps has this function called for all, and so for all, what it does is you basically say, for every row that is in this table, this collection, whatever it could be, yeah, you say, so for every row that is in this collection, I want you to do this. So again, you see that patch function comes back up, and really what it's doing again is we're just saying, I want you to create or update something inside of this location. So in this case, we are now referring to the table that I have in SharePoint, which is the demo_sales forecast. So if you go there, and how I pulled this in from SharePoint is I went to my data sources. So on the left side here, if you go data source, one of the connectors that is available for you, and you can actually search for it, so you can type in SharePoint. And so SharePoint is here. You can click on this and then pick your site, and then pick the list. So in this case, I went through it and I picked my list, which is demo sales forecast. And so now it becomes available for you to use inside of your formulas, just like anything else inside of Power Apps, just like the collections that we built here. So now I'm saying, I want you, so again, for every row that is in our products, the collection of products, I want you to create or update a row that is in SharePoint. Now, this is kind of cheating a little bit, because really all this will ever do is create a new item. So this does not update anything yet. The way you specifically update, so if the row already exists in SharePoint, you want to refer to its ID. But again, to keep it simple for this demo, what I'm doing here is we're patching, so we're updating the sales forecast list in SharePoint. ID blank, bracket, what this does is just says it's a new record. It's not, an existing record. And then this record refers to this collection product. So again, so for every, and I'll read it now in kind of plain English. So for every row in collection products, I want you to update the sales forecast list in SharePoint. I want you to create a new row, and I want you to fill it with this record that you're working on from the products list. Okay, hopefully everybody's kind of can follow along with that. So what will happen here is I'm going to go ahead and test this. And so when I hit save, we're going to see it's just automatically just going to go through that table. And if you notice, and I should have pointed this out, if you notice, the only table that we care about is this collection product. And that's because, again, we fed it. So we fed it from collection months. We put it all into just one collection product table. And so this can be just a simple one table, all your data goes in there. As you start making bigger and bigger tables, then it starts making sense to create bigger relationships between them. But again, we're trying to keep it a little bit simple here. So when I hit the save button, you'll see that it'll go through every row and it'll put them in SharePoint. So I'm going to hit save. And now Power Apps is doing its thing, and it does it very quickly in this case. So if I go here, sure enough, we now have all the data that comes in here. Now, I'm not looking at the Q&A, so have any questions come in? It's probably a good point for me to stop to see if there's any questions.
Thank you very much, Ramiro. It was an amazing session and very informative. I think Rebecca has a question. And can you develop an app like this collaboratively at the same time with others in a team? Did you get my question?
Yes, got it.
Yeah.
So Rebecca, yeah, so the question was, can you develop an app like this collaboratively at the same time with others? So yes, it is a little bit more complicated to do that. So I guess I should say you can create an app like this with collaboratively with someone else, just not at the same time. So you both can't have the same application open inside of Power Apps. It will not let you. There's a little bit more of an advanced concept known as components, where you can each be working on a separate component in the app. So if you're in charge of building the gallery, you can do that and build it out, and then while someone else works on a separate piece of it, and then it gets brought into a single application. But yeah, that would definitely be a little bit more advanced there. I believe there was a blog article on the Power Apps site that kind of went over how you could possibly do that, and I'd be happy to hunt that one down and send it the responses for you to look at and read at. But yeah, you could share ownership or co-ownership of this app, and that other person could log in and edit it as long as you're not doing it at the same time. So I hope that answered the question. All right. So, okay, assuming there's no other questions, let me go ahead and go on to the other application that I mentioned, and let me know if I'm going over on time, please. So over here, I now have the sales forecasting application. So again, as I mentioned, this one is definitely, it took me quite a long time to kind of come to where it's at now. But I figured I'd show it to you guys anyway. So, we go from the basic idea of just, we're just feeding into a single collection, single gallery, and then we're putting that into SharePoint to something a little bit more advanced. Now, I'm not going to try to take this one apart too much, really. I just wanted to show you some of the pieces of it. So up here, if you notice, I have, instead of it being a text box, I have a drop down. And so, again, all this is just controls inside of Power Apps. So hitting plus, and in this case, those were called combo box. So plus input and combo box. What that does is, sorry, I'll wait for that one to start up again. So while that loads up, I just wanted to go ahead and jump over to that spreadsheet that I showed you guys earlier. Because in actuality, this is the same spreadsheet that I use to show the table that you're looking at from that new application. And all I did was hide some of the columns that I had in here. So if I go here and unhide all of these and unhide this one over here. All right, so you can actually see the sales forecasting application that I built and showed everybody is just the same concept, just a little bit more expanded on how you do it. So I had taken a month-year product sales price quantity and then calculated revenue and on all these other columns. But under the surface, it's really kind of the same concept. So if you could build the first one that I showed you, you can work your way up to building the second one that I'm going to kind of walk over right now. So, all right, thankfully our session is back up here. So, as I was mentioning, the first thing that I wanted to show you here, so salesperson is what's known as a combo box inside of Power Apps. So if I hit insert, and then you have the option of choosing them. So in this case, input is the one that I want. And here's your combo box field. So if I hit combo box, I've now added a drop down, so this one got added up here. So let me just stick it everywhere else. Okay. And so as part of the experience, you can go ahead and pick your data source right in here. And you can, so a combo box needs some sort of data in order to put things in the dropdown. Your data can come from SharePoint. It can come from a collection just inside of Power Apps, like I showed you earlier. It can come from any number of different places, or you can also just put it yourself. You can code it yourself. And so one of the things you can do, so if I click on here and I pick items from my formula, so combo box sample is the default, but I can just go in here, and if you do a square bracket, you can say 1, 2, and this is just, again, very simple, but you see you can add options. So these are my options, 1, 2, or 3. So if this was a drop down for status, let's say, you can say open, closed, canceled, right? So if this was, you can say these are my options for this drop down because this is going to be the status of something. So if I click play so we can test this, and I click that, you now see open, close, canceled. And so the combo box, one of the nice things about it is you can say whether you want to allow more than one selection. So on the right here, again, this is the properties pane, and I'm not going to go over every single bit of it. I'm just going to call out a couple of them for you. Allow multiple selection, it does exactly that. You can say whether you want to let people pick more than one thing or not. And then allow searching. So if you have a lot of data, you can have people be able to search for it instead of having to scroll up and down to try to find it. So if I go in here and check off allow multiple selections, and then hit my combo box, now I could only pick one at a time. All right. So that's what this is. So the salesperson, the customer, and the operating region, all those are just prettier combo boxes. And you can go in, you can change the border and the color and all the different things here. So salesperson, so again, salesperson here, all this is just a label. We just change the color so it looks nicer. You have your combo box. Add month, again, it's just a button. And in this case, we just gave it a drop shadow, which is it's not in Power Apps, but we did it using something known as an HTML text control. And I do have a thread on Twitter if you want to know how to do that. I'll put that in our chat as well. And then the last thing that I wanted to show you guys is this import from Excel function. So let me just go ahead and hit that button for us. So the way that I like to build my applications a lot is I like to build them and then step away and not use it, not look at it, come back later and try to use it again and see if it's easy for me to use. Because if that works, then I know that I'm in a good path to go and give this to somebody else to work with, because it'll make sense to them when they look at it. So one of the things that I noticed as I kept working with my applications was that I didn't have any other, so this is just one screen right now, and I didn't have another screen to put data into and save it. And so when I would go and take screenshots, I'd come in here and I would keep adding months and have to retype my data every single time. And I kind of got tired of it. And so what I did instead of having to do that was I did this import from Excel function. And this is definitely not, it's not difficult to do. It's a little hard to just walk through it, but obviously inside of Excel, you're able to just drag and drop, and you can create a lot of data really fast. And so what I did was exactly that. I just went in here and I said, okay, I want to copy these rows, right? So I want to make a lot of data, copy this and paste that, because I don't want to have to re-enter this in my application every time. It's just going to take too long for me. And honestly, that's not how I expect my users to work, is just having to do stuff in bulk. But I wanted to give the option. So if I go in here and I copy just this, go back to my sales forecast. Okay, so this is kind of just an example so you guys can see how much more you can do with Power Apps if you think of the controls that you have in a different way. Power Apps does a lot of things for you, just kind of, I would say automatically. There's functions like collect and attach, and there's all sorts of things in there. But you can get a lot more out of it if you just think of those as puzzle pieces to say, how can I take every one of those and put it together and give me something else? So that's what this is. So if you notice, I say paste copied rows from Microsoft Excel here. So when I click on this, all this really is, if you were to look at it, the control, it's just a text input box. And so what I did was I put a text input box and I set the color of the text to white so you don't actually see anything there. And then I set its onChange property to a formula, and I'll show you guys that in a second. So when I click on here and I press Control and V on my keyboard to paste, and now pasted rows from Excel, and it even tells me how many I pasted, right? So how did that actually happen? So to show you that, I'm going to click on this Show Import Preview button. And what this is this is another control inside of Power Apps, which is just a data table control. It's very, very basic, but you can see. But you can see the same rows that I just took from Excel are now shown inside of here. Normally, this isn't something that you think you'd be able to do, inside of Power Apps, at least easily, and especially not something that you can just copy and paste. So what's actually happening? How are we taking the text that's coming from Excel and turning it into a collection in this case? And so if I click on here, you'll notice I have this data table from Excel, and my data source is set not to a specific source, but it's actually set to a formula. And again, this is all very, into the weeds, and it's very specific for what I need, but, and I have posting for this that I'll make available for you guys in chat. But what I'm really doing is I've been given text from Excel. So if I do, and I'll show you what that looks like really quickly. So that same text that I got from Excel.
So it's great. I mean, the demo is going so much well. I see everyone is paying attention, and there are like some quick questions in the chat for you. We will read them out. And I don't know, Ramiro, I don't know your schedule for next week, but I was still proposing that, you come over and take like some 30 to 30 minutes with the attendees and then show them all the cool stuff that they can do, because I think a lot of people are actually doing Power Apps, but what they can't do is the cool stuff that you are doing. So it would really be great to have you again, but I mean, I know schedules may not permit you, so do let me know if that would be possible. For the time being, it looks like we are running into schedules a bit. Yeah. Are you still available, Ramiro? Yeah,
absolutely. So do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, so we will just call off and then we do some fun game session with them because it looks like our time is, run out right now.
Yeah, no,
but if you would like to conclude in like 2 minutes, I can let that go on. And then let's see if by the close of the session, if you would like to take the next session, that would be great too. We have, next week available.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let me go ahead and just wrap this one up for now. Okay.
Awesome.
So just really quickly for you guys, so you can see, you take all the different functions that are available for you inside of Power Apps, and you can use it to just break apart the data that you have and turn it into something else. So, a lot of the stuff that you guys see that I post out there that, look kind of complex or out of the, blue, it just comes from just picking at it, figuring out how could I put this together to make something happen that I want to happen. But at the end of the day, that same formula, the import row function, you click on it, you now have it added straight inside of here. But again, this is just kind of like a very quick view of this, obviously there was a lot that got put into this application and a lot that it does. But if you can build the application that I showed you from the beginning, you can, again, work your way up to this application. Again, every piece of it is simple Power App stuff, drop down, text field, and that's it. All right.
Awesome. Awesome. This is really cool. I'm sure everyone in the chat enjoyed it. Please go ahead, let us know whether you enjoyed this session or not. I'll be grabbing some quick link. I'll be sharing a link for us to get your, a survey from you. What do you think about the session? Is it great? Microsoft wants to hear from all of you. So what I can do right now is to go ahead and share my screen for the Kahoot session of Ramiro and then all the Power App stuff that we learned. And very quickly, we'll go on some short break and panel discussion, and then we go for our last session, which is on Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, or Yammer. Which one would you choose for your organization? So let me do this in a short while. I'm just going to share my screen right now. Just a second. I will share my screen. I think my system seems to be a bit slower in terms of doing this. So let me check here whether I can find a better way of getting this screen to all of you. But we are so much excited that you join us, and then you are learning along with all of us. We are really excited about everything. Wow. I'm having tons of calls. So sorry. Let me know if you can see my screen once it is shared. Calendar. Hello, Ramiro. Are you able to see my screen, or am I cutting out? Which of them?
You are not cutting out, and it looks like your screen is loading now.
Okay. Just a second then, because it looks like my screen is taking so much long to load. And let me check it up again. Just a sec over there. So those of you in the chat, please go ahead and introduce yourself. Where are you joining us from? And remember, those in Ghana, if you win this Kahoot session, you will get a free water bottle. Yeah, and then the attendees, those of you in Accra and Tamale, I will be able to, I have a pickup point for you to take some swags. Okay, so let me quickly do this. Click and join from my other laptop. Just a second more. Let me do this from the other laptop because it looks like this machine is getting me slow a bit there. Just a second. All right. Mute me. Can I be muted over here? Just a second. Hello. Hello.
We can hear you and we can see your screen.
Confirm to me if you can see the Kahoot session. I'm sharing it right away. Are you able to see it? Anyone to come off mute and let me know?
Yes, we can see your screen.
The Kahoot session is live. Anyone? I just need confirmation that the Kahoot is live, and then I'll be able to proceed. Okay, so sorry, I had to just switch back to another network to get this smoothly running. Thank you so much for your patience. And since my screen is shared and you can all see it, let's go ahead and play the game, see who wins, and then award those who deserve to be awarded. Thank you so much for joining us, Peter. We are so much excited to have you, and we'll be handing over to you in just a matter of some seconds. Thank you. Okay, so the way that the game works is that I'll click on play, and I would definitely have to choose a way to play this. I think just a second. Start single player game. No, not that. I'm trying to get this up and running. Okay, let's see. Teach. Let's see what the sessions are going to be like. Yeah, so I'll choose classic. So it's going to generate a pin, and this pin you are going to go to Kahoot, www.kahoot.it, and when you visit it, you need to log in with this code. Okay, so you just have to go to kahoot.it. Okay, just like I'm doing. Let me see who is able to join us. All right, I'll click on enter, and it will ask me of a nickname. I would enter my name, and I'll click and got it. And this would put my name on the screen. And when the event starts, I'll just click on start, and that will be all. So we just want to make sure we are giving all of you a fair, a fair point, so that all of you are able to play the game. All right. So if we are ready. Okay, Edwin, thank you for joining. All right, so this is the way it works. I'll just click on start, and then it would give us some series of questions, and then we can answer. So very quickly, are computers human? If it is yes or no, then whatever question that you choose would be answer you choose would have an effect. Now the point is that look at the colors and choose the color that fits into the answer. For example, red is yes, so I'll click on red. And then I would have, that. Okay, so you see, basically, it means that I lost, and it would go to next screen and try to, declare someone to be the winner. So that is basically how it works. So someone would win. So right now, I mean, we don't have much time. Okay, Shadrach won. I think I was the last. Edwin. Oh, really? Did Dawood really win? Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. It appears that I'm the winner. So that is how it works. So right now, we want all of you to join and then play the game along with your colleagues here. Whoever wins will take a water bottle away. So And then all of you joining, please make sure you take the survey, because the survey would mean that you actually came in here, right? So I'll click on the main Kahoot and then we get started so that Peter can take over from here. So I'll click on teach. I will then have to click on classic mode. And then once I click on classic mode, it will load and generate some pin for me. Okay, so please use this pin to log in now. Right. Just be quick, fast, be smart, so you can be the winner of this Kahoot. So let's see who is able to join, and Peter will take over the next session right after we are done. So, all right, so someone joined us. Let me see who next is able to. All right, we have a couple of you joining in. I'll be starting the game soon. Whoever joins is just joining with this code, and then we will declare someone to be the winner. The other time we had Uncle Sam winning and Becca being the second. Okay, we have Edwin joining, we have Anderson. Who else is going to win? Make sure to call out your friends, let them join us. We awesome, stickers and stuff. We are looking forward to see. Okay, so we have 7 people join us, and I think it's fine enough. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so I'm just going to click on start. I'm going to share the audio. Okay. Once again, who is Microsoft Power Platform built for? Let's see who can answer. Okay, you can still join the game. If you are in the chat, you can go to the IT and not to this tool. Then sign in with me. Okay. Looks like 3 people got it. Everyday people, yes. When Alex was presenting, he mentioned about that. So a Power Platform is made for everyone. If you're a pro developer, you can do even more. Okay, let's go to the next. All right, so Uncle Sam is here again and winning all of you. Please be fast to answer, else Uncle Sam takes, I think 1 bottle last time, so you will get another one then. So pro developers can build custom connectors too. Maybe. Okay. All right. Looks like we had 3 people correct and 3 wrong. So let's go to next and see who won. Okay, so we have Uncle Sam winning on the leaderboard again, and then we have the winner is the second. Oh, sorry. All right, let's go. And I see Shadi is catching up and Becca, everyone is catching up. Let's see who gets the next. So unchanged is a property in Power Apps, true or false? right. Okay. Okay. So 6 people answered. We have 4 minutes to go. Right. And then there we go. Okay. So 5 people got it right, but someone answered it fast. Let's see who gets it through and come on the leaderboard. Uncle Sam still stays at the top. Becca is at the third. William is climbing, and then Edwin is as well, on the third position. We have Winner being the second. Let's see whether Winner gets to win. Next, when an app is built in Power Apps, it becomes available to everyone. It becomes available to everyone. Okay. By default, yes, it does. So you can actually prevent it and share it with only a few people, else people within your organization would have access to that particular Power Apps, but you can restrict access, like I was doing in the demo initially. All right, who gets to take Uncle Sam? No one. Winner stays positive, and William stays, at the bottom. Becca, the fourth. All right, let's get to see who gets to win then. We are in the 5th question. Microsoft is our official partner for this event. True or false? This is like a bonus one. All right, so we are 4 people going in for true, and let's see. Okay. Who gets to take Uncle Sam from the leaderboard? No one. Okay, let's go now. The website business.com is for the business suits, those who partnered for our events. Let's see. All right. All of you won. Let's get to see. Okay, who is the third position? Edwin won the third position. Winner stays the second position, and Uncle Sam once again takes it over. Oh, do we get surprised? Oh. Thank you so much for joining. Becca and Shadi stays at now, and we are so excited at the one. Let's pass it to our next speaker. But before we go, let me invite in Ramiro. Overall, how did you see the session? Hi Ramiro, thank you so much for joining. We are so excited that we got to share, so much together, and then we are at the last stage of our sessions. Ramiro, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am.
Amazing. Yeah, so we had a couple of questions in the chat, and we wish that you could answer them, but it looks like our time is, catching up very quickly. But I do want to invite you and Peter. Hello, Peter. So Ramiro is from, Ramiro, you are from the United States, right?
That is correct.
Amazing. And Peter, you are joining us from UK.
I am, that's right.
Amazing. I'm actually live here from Ghana, and I'm so excited about all the progress that we've been able to make with the attendees. It looks like we had some people winning. We had the winner. You have to identify yourself as the second position, and Uncle Sam. They are both taking bottles away. And also Edwin would take a Microsoft 365 bottle away. But the quick question I just want to ask both of you is, a person starting with Microsoft 365, what is the advice you would give to the person? So a user had never heard of Microsoft 365, and because of the bootcamp has been exposed to it. Let me go with Peter. What would you advise? Where would you tell the person to start from? Are there some resources and stuff that you can share? Like, how was the journey when you were starting, with Microsoft 365? Maybe you can just give us a quick rundown of that.
When I was starting, we're probably talking about 2013, 2014 when I first started with Microsoft 365. And it's changed so much in that time. So it's hard to compare how it was then with how it is now, because so much is different. But what I always advise any customer that is coming to me, and my job as a Microsoft 365 consultant is to not try and do everything at once. Most customers are coming onto Microsoft 365 from some sort of on-premises environment, usually on-premises Exchange for email and traditional server file shares and that sort of thing. And quite often the biggest mistake that they will make is trying to do things in the wrong order. Because Teams is so relevant at the moment and so required, Teams is the thing that everyone asks us about, but it's not necessarily the right place to start. Without having your Exchange moved from on-premises into Exchange Online, you're not going to get a lot of the benefits that come with Teams, a lot of the rich sort of calendar experience that is available if you have your mailboxes and Exchange Online. Mm-hmm. So that would be my tip. Start with Exchange and start small. Don't try and do everything at once.
Amazing. Okay, that's a good advice from Peter. Peter will be taking over right away from this session. Let me get in Ramiro. What do you think about that? Well, how would you advise someone? What should the person start with?
Yeah, it's kind of similar to Peter. I started kind of a while back now, but I would recommend, as time has gone, there's a lot more platforms for you to learn. So some of the things that I would recommend especially would be actually Microsoft's own Microsoft Learn platform that covers all the different things that they offer, including Power Apps and Power Automate. So I would really encourage people to look at that, and I'll post it as an announcement here so people can go click on the link. It gives you all sorts of paths, whether you just started today or you've been working at it for a while. There's something there for everybody to take a look at. And really, a lot of it is just driven by experimentation and curiosity as well. Have fun with it.
Awesome. That sounds really, really awesome from our speakers. And let me just get the last question from Ramiro. So Ramiro mentioned that, if you want to start Microsoft Learn over here, it's your go-to. So go check it out and then be able to, empower yourself with Microsoft Learn. And we are so much excited that we had Ramiro in this session. We have our last sessions coming on the 4th of next month, which is just a few days ahead, like 2 days or 3 days ahead to next month. So we are excited that you took time to do this with us. And I don't know, we might get to finalize if Ramiro is available for some other session, if not on 4th. Thank you so much, Ramiro. We are so much excited to have you.